So I recently had the opportunity of going back to my hometown and going to a family reunion, right? And it's a beautiful thing where we have all the cousins come together from all over the country to one place just to enjoy each other, right? I grew up in a small town of Massillon, Ohio, which nobody knows Massillon. You spit across Massillon, Ohio. Nobody knows. You know Massillon, Ohio? What? Wow. We probably family, friends, something, you know? But yeah, so I'm from this small town, and I grew up with my cousins, and my cousins were a couple years older than me, but you know, as the younger one, you always look up to your cousins, right? And this specific time I went back to Ohio for the family reunion, he wasn't there, right? He was incarcerated, which wasn't the first time he was incarcerated. It's a history of him being incarcerated. So in that moment of sadness and sorrow, just really missing my older cousin, I wrote a poem. And I dedicate this poem to him, right? Well, I guess my cousin back in jail again. You see, he lived more years of his life inside of a cell than he did out. He's roughly 40-something. Who knows? And who really cares? Because the day he went in, he never really came out. At the family reunion, we passed statements like, he must like it in there, or he'll be all right, he holds his head high, or he's strong enough to make it through. But what if that's all he knew? Or what if that's all he knows? Remember when crack ravaged our neighborhoods? Remember? I barely do, but I do remember projects, roaches, rats, smokers out back selling their mama's sofa, lookouts on the corner, focused on the Ave, ladies in the window, focused on the kinfolk. Me, my cousin also, though, since he was about 10 or 11, who knows, and who really cares? Being that young in the game, there's no way that you could be prepared for life. You see, you have memories of throwing baseball with dad in the front yard, or mom's hot apple pies, or watching fireworks, American flags, and eating hot dogs on the 4th of July. He was pitching the folks that y'all now call individuals that suffer from addiction or dual diagnosis, or my favorite, substance use disorder. But we was crackheads, fiends, and predators, but I digress. He was pitching rocks to friends, fiends on the block, eating ketchup sandwiches, dodging bullets on the 4th of July. Just a friendly reminder that we were never really free on the 4th. But I digress. First time he went in, he was close to his 13th birthday. Who knows, and who really cares when you're a black kid from the projects? They taught us it was a war on drugs, but the guns weren't pointed at the substances. They were aimed at us. Every raid was a reminder that this country would rather lock away a child than heal the wounds that they created. 13 and sentenced like a man, while hedge fund babies wreck the economy and get book deals. Cuzzo missed school but learned that the law from the inside out. They called it correction, but what was being corrected? The only thing that taught him was how to survive in a cage, how to speak less and to blink slower, how to wear his pain like skin and hope that the guards wouldn't smell it. They made him an animal, then blamed him for growling. They watched him grow behind concrete bars. We acted like that was life. We made jokes about commissary, saying things like, he'll be alright, as if being forgotten is something to adapt to. The truth is, it's easier to laugh than to cry, easier to pretend than to look grief in the face and realize the whole dang thing is just a family still bleeding. He had potential, you know. Sorry, I had a moment. He had potential, you know, not just in the way that we throw that thing around being hopeful. You know, he could really draw. He had bars sharpened up to the razor. He loved music and he loved being a kid, but the block was louder than any dream he had. He grew up in a place where trauma tucked you in at night, where your name is followed by a DOC number and survival becomes the only form of resistance. Remember when the cops in school had more presence than the guidance counselors? When we were over-policed and under-loved, when they punished us for being poor instead of asking us why we were starving in the first place, I remember sitting at Grandma's house. Eating beans and cornbread, watching him doodle on his arms with a pen. You know, that looked like freedom on the skin that he never felt, but they never see that boy. You know what they saw? They just saw his hoodie, his sagging jeans, his address. All they saw was his black, and that was enough. You wonder why he keeps going back? The world outside never really welcomed him in the first place. No therapy, no job, no love. Just expectation to change with no tools to do it. You ever try to heal in the same environment that broke you? Try to pray with a knee on your neck? Try to build a future where your whole life was being demolished? Sometimes I think the cell was the only place that made sense to him. Structure, routine, no masks, no pretending, just you, your thoughts, and the time that refuses to move. And we on the outside, we keep the cycle going. Shaming, judging, forgetting. He needed a hug, he got a sentence. He needed therapy, he got trauma compounded with untreatment. He needed healing, and he got time. So yeah, my cousin's back in jail again. But this just isn't about him. It's about every black boy handed a number instead of a future. Every girl mourning a brother while explaining to her son how to avoid the same fate. It's about our neighborhoods being war zones in a country that calls itself free. We throw cookouts and call it resilience. But Dad, when do we get our peace? When do our boys stop becoming headlines? When does redemption start requiring a miracle? I don't know if my cousin will ever get out again. I don't even know if he wants to. But I know this. He didn't fail us. We failed him. But who really cares?